Welcome back to MMA Al Dente. I am the guy who picked Beneil Dariush to defeat Ramsey Nijem. And I'm here to talk about Amanda Nunes versus Irene Aldana, the main event for UFC 289, which is utter dog shit as far as pay-per-view cards go. But nevertheless, this is an excellent main event, certainly worthy of a main event slot on a pay-per-view, because the bantamweight title is on the line, and also beating Amanda Nunes. It means a lot. Amanda Nunes, she's the best female fighter of all time, and even though that might not be the case with a few more losses, as of now, and even with a recent loss to Juliana Pena, a win over her means more than the belt. So it's a damn good fight with a lot of high stakes. Amanda Nunes, she's the GOAT, as I said, 22-5. She's got 13 wins via knockout, 4 submissions, and 5 decisions. Her 5 losses, 2 via TKO, 2 via submission, and 1 decision. Irene Aldana, 14-6. She's got 8 wins via knockout, 3 submissions, and 3 decisions. Her 6 losses come 2 via TKO or knockout, and 4 via decision. All 4 of those in the UFC. Look, this is a fight, and I'll get into their losses in a second. But this is a fight in which I have seen all their losses. This is a fight in which both these girls, are very good strikers. And I do think Amanda Nunes is going to be more inclined to take Irene Aldana to the ground. I think she's coming in with that game plan. And that's the reason why I'm going to start bringing up stats and horse shit that lead you in that direction. So I'm just making you aware. That's what I have in my head. It's all just me leading up to saying I think Amanda Nunes, her primary course to victory is a decision. And I'll explain why here. But let's start with Aldana. Aldana, her 6 losses. She's got 2 losses via TKO. They come earlier in her career, and they're to excellent fighters. Tanya Evinger beat her in the Invicta Championship. For the Invicta Championships, she got her out of there in round 4, sucked the life out of her, and pounded her out from the top. Tanya Evinger was a suffocating top game fighter, and really, really good in her day. That's a fight that made a lot of sense at the time that she lost that fight. Her other loss by knockout is a standing TKO is to Larissa Pacheco, who is currently one of the best fighters in the worldwide. I don't follow the rankings, but the worldwide rankings that go past the UFC, Larissa Pacheco is at the tippy top, near the tippy top, right with girls like Amanda Nunes. So it's a loss that's gotten better with age, but that was Pacheco cracking her in round 3, and Irene Aldana was just kind of out of it. She was taken out of it on her feet, and Larissa pounced on her. Pacheco is, right now, like I said, she's one of the best fighters in the world. But even back then, being raw and whatever, she was incredibly dangerous. And that's just a loss that's gotten a lot better with age. But since then, she's never been finished. She was knocked out 2 minutes into her UFC career. Knocked down, I should say. Sorry, 2 minutes into her UFC career. But she hasn't been knocked down since. Leslie Smith knocked her down with a big right hand and pounced on her, but she stood in the fight, and like I said, her chin's looked impeccable since. You could argue Caitlin Chukagian knocked her down, but it was like a push or momentum or something. I don't think anything landed there. But she looked awesome. She did arguably almost get finished against Holly Holm, but she didn't go down there, and Holly Holm dominated her. That was her most dominant loss of her decision losses. I'll get into that in a second. Her decision losses are Holly Holm, Chukagian, Raquel Pennington, and Leslie Smith. She's a girl like, reminds me of Rafael Dos Anjos. Irene Aldana lost her first 2 fights in the UFC, which I'm pretty sure Dos Anjos did too. And now here she is fighting for her title. If she beats Amanda Nunes, it's going to be an incredible story. Her losses have all been tight, pretty much, close fights, aside from the Holly Holm fight, and that was a 5-rounder. Holly did look better down the stretch, but she really looked good throughout that whole fight with wrestling. She smothered Irene Aldana, ripped her to the mat multiple times. a lot of times with clinch takedowns, maybe even all the time, but she still got her down in the middle of the octagon as well as up against the cage, and just really bullied her around there. Irene Aldana is a girl who she's never been submitted, but she's been neutralized on the ground. She arguably almost lost her last fight against Macy Chiasson with ground control. Macy had a lot of success in round two, smashed her after she settled into full control and taking her back and everything. But even in round three, she had her down, and once they settled into top position, it looked like, oh, she was going to grind out a victory because she's a fucking big monster, tough to move around and get out from underneath of. But she ended up getting up, whatever, trying to stand over her, whatever she was planning on doing, and got hit with a beautiful up kick or whatever. Not even like an up kick, like an axe kick to the liver. And it's one of the coolest finishes ever. But definitely a finish, a move that saved her from what was looking like a likely loss. But in that fight, look, Macy Chiasson got her down multiple times, and Irene Aldana was always scrambling for something. She scrambled for an arm early on, right off the takedown. It was beautiful, and locked up what looked like a potentially done deal, an arm bar. But it wasn't done. Macy fought out of it. And then in round two, she hit a knee bar or a heel hook right off the takedown. So she likes to scramble and go for things. But, if the dust settles and her opponent's on top of her, she can be neutralized. No doubt about it. On the feet, that's where she wants to be. And I'm not sure who has an advantage here, to be honest. I'm favoring Amanda Nunes, like pretty much anywhere, but I wouldn't be surprised at all if Aldana has the advantage on the feet. And that, you know what? I can't even say I'd favor Amanda Nunes. I just, maybe with a gun to my head, I'd favor her, but it's not like I favor her in a stand-up battle. I envision Nunes winning this fight, but it's with wrestling. I do think Nunes is going to be inclined to wrestle here because Irene Aldana can crack with the best of them. She's got really good, an excellent left hook. Just ask Ketlin Vieira about it. And she's a really technically sound striker. And she's one of the few girls that matches Nunes, exceeds her even in size. I think she is going to be the bigger girl. And might be able to match her power, but probably not. I'm thinking Amanda Nunes has more firepower altogether. And it's tough to say which Amanda Nunes is going to show up because now she's closer to 40 than she is to 30, I think. Anyway, I don't know. Maybe not. She's actually, I think, 34 or whatever. Still, one time I didn't write down their fucking ages. But either way, Amanda Nunes, I think she's 34. But she's a mother now. May as well be 40. And she's, always hanging around with her family, getting older. She's got different priorities. It's totally possible she shows up a different fighter here and she's not with it. But I can't assume that. I can't predict that. So I'm predicting Nunes, the Lioness, shows up. And I do think she's probably got more firepower than Aldana on the feet. I know while she's fresh, she's got better movement. And I know she's, historically anyway, she's got good enough wrestling to get her down. Amanda Nunes, how she's been beaten, and she's been beaten 5 times, it's all been pretty much by grapplers. And look, this is a good time to mention, the only reason I made this channel is because I predicted that Juliana Pena was going to beat her. It was one of I've been watching MMA for 20 years. I think the only other one is Darren Elkins versus Mirsad Bektic. But I've called, I think, just 2 plus 500 and above underdogs. And this was one of them. And it's just because Amanda Nunes was a girl who insists on grappling, making her fights a grappling battle, and she's got a great pace, and typically she outlasts her opponents. I know she'd been tapped by Valentina Shevchenko and Jermaine Durandamy in the second and third rounds, but Amanda Nunes doesn't submit anybody after round 1. She's got 4 submission victories, and they're all in round 1, and in 3 of them she beat the living shit out of her opponents. Miesha Tate, Sarah McMahon, and Megan Anderson. Not that she beat the ever-loving shit out of them, but she beat them with power and fear. on the feet before she got him to the ground. Smashed Misha Tate's fucking nose up before she got her in the rear naked choke. She only beat one fighter conventionally with her jiu-jitsu, and it was this girl in Invicta. She just took her back and strangled her in a minute or two. But Amanda Nunes typically doesn't do that, and she's never gotten a submission after round one. It's just not there for her. I think if anybody grapples with her and is able to grapple with her, and I don't mean like Jermaine Durandamy, I mean somebody that's able to press her and, make her exert herself, they can fatigue Amanda Nunes. That's how she lost to Sarah D'Alelio, Juliana Pena, Kat Zingano, Alexis Davis. Alexis Davis crowded her in the clinch. I mean, you can imagine what the stand-up looked like, even though Amanda Nunes was a lot more raw, but Davis crowded her. Kat Zingano got her down, really, and sucked some of the life out of her in round two, and a lot of that's due to surviving the onslaught, but she started to wear her down. And Valentina Shevchenko, that first victory Nunes had there. In round three, it became clear to everybody if this was a 5-rounder, Valentina would win. She ended up mitigating some of that in the rematch, even though it was still a very fucking close fight. But my point is, grapplers beat Amanda Nunes, and they beat her typically deeper into the fight. Also, Sarah D'Alelio beat her, and I think Invicta took her down repeatedly, Ended up getting into side control on the ground. But Amanda Nunes actually looked fresh at the end of that fight, and that's why she went the distance. But girls with a higher pedigree of grappling can suck some of the life out of her. I don't think Irene Aldana's got that. I think Irene Aldana's got dynamic submissions on the ground, but she doesn't have that top game pressure. Juliana Pena, taking over a 3-round fight against Sarah McMahon and putting her on her ass. I don't think Irene Aldana's got that in her. So Irene Aldana's path to victory is cracking Amanda Nunes in one way or another, cracking her or hitting her with a dynamic submission. But I think this fight is going to settle into a wrestling match eventually. I think that's what's going to happen. Nunes is going to know Irene Aldana is one of the most dangerous fighters on the feet. Maybe Amanda is getting a little more old and whatever, less deadly on the feet. She was overwhelmed by Juliana Pena, that's the only the only wrinkle to that fight that I did not see. I did not see Juliana Pena taking over that fight on the feet, but that only makes Amanda Nunes look a little more vulnerable, in my opinion. I think Amanda Nunes, she's got a little less confidence on the feet. And I think she's going to mind her P's and Q's here, because seeing Juliana Pena winging punches at you like a dog is scary in that Diego Sanchez sort of way. Irene Aldana's got that Alex Pereira sort of thing going. Not that she's exactly, it's a bad fucking analogy, but she's closer to Pereira than Diego Sanchez, certainly. But, that's who Nunes lost to. She lost to Diego Sanchez in that fight. Irene Aldana doesn't have that in her. She's got the heart and everything, but I mean the wrestling prowess. She doesn't have that in her. So I think Irene's got a cracker to beat her. I'm not predicting it happens. I'm thinking Amanda Nunes outlasts her and starts making this a wrestling battle. And especially down the stretch with Amanda knowing that her cardio's failed her multiple times and, pretty much any one of her losses, I think she is going to be fighting even more cautiously down the stretch, unless, of course, she is able to hurt Aldana or fatigue her in any way. Then I envision her getting a finish. But Aldana hasn't been finished since she was a youngster, and I'm thinking Amanda Nunes plays this one a little more safely, gets a decision victory. Like, share, subscribe, all that horseshit. Check out my other videos. Oh, yeah, I forgot to go over the bets. Plus 275 for Amanda Nunes winning a decision. That's what I've played, and also minus 130 for over 2.5 rounds, but that's because I'm a degenerate. You can bet on her winning by submission, Nunes, plus 1100. I don't know. And that's in round one, I'm saying. In round one. I do think if she does win by submission, it's in round one or nothing. I'm not betting on that. Her getting a finish in round one is plus 275. Fuck that. I think there's a lot more value on the decision in this fight, and that's my play. Like, share, subscribe, all that horse shit, and check out my other videos. This one was a fucking mess.